I was battling with the fact that I was no longer invincible, and that was the biggest thing in my mind. The biggest thing in my mind was, God, what's all this about? I'm mortal after all. I wonder how this is going to affect the rest of my life.
I was terrified. We had a grandson at that stage, and in Japan, and I kept thinking, am I going to see him grow up? How long am I going to live for? Am I going to be bedridden? How's Alistair going to cope? Because we are very close. We've been married 45 years, and I was more initially concerned for him as to how he was going to manage, because we're like one person. Mm-hmm. And if something's wrong with me, well, it affects Alistair. Mm-hmm. But, after I got through, I have to say it takes a long time, before you even accept the diagnosis. And you go through such a range of emotions.
My confidence certainly took a big drop.
Because Hilton's work, he was travelling. He travels often, and he wouldn't go anywhere without me in case the fear of perhaps he didn't. He's in a hotel room and he didn't wake up.
For New York or London, she had to come.
I wasn't allowed to drive a car for 6 years after the original cardiac arrest. So that was a whole big deal to have to learn to live with. You just have to learn to catch the bus, take the kids on the bus. I actually ended up getting an electric bicycle, and that was a godsend because it meant I could just duck down to the shops or, do whatever without having to walk too far, because I still do get very tired and breathless when I'm walking. I'm okay on the flat, but going up hills is very hard. That's where the electric bicycle helped. I did things like get my grocery shopping on the internet and home delivered, because they would bring it in and put it on my bench. I didn't have to bend over or lift anything. You have to learn not to be such a perfectionist about things like housework, because it's not important, You do what you can, get other people to help.
I chose not to go back to work as often as I was previously, mainly due to the fact that if I was working, I couldn't put as much time into the family, and I was finding it harder. So I'm still working, but not as much, and it works well for me.
When this all happened, I was a stay-at-home mum, and the long-term plan was to get a job once the kids were at school. That was made a lot more difficult with my heart condition and just having no energy, being very tired. But I have managed to get part-time work, actually at the school where 2 of my children are, which is great. They're great, and I just have to make sure I don't do anything too physical, that's all. That's probably my main restriction with working.
My work was a holiday. I was the best sales manager in Victoria. I used to travel to Sydney and Adelaide and Melbourne with a furniture factory. And we were like family. And when I was crying, they were crying. They gave me a lot of support and never worried about work. I can take as much time off as I wanted to and still get paid. No questions asked, because I have given the firm big dollars. So even now, even after this, they wanted me back to work, but when I can't do the job as it should be done, I don't want a part of it. I want to do it properly and perfect and to be happy about it.
In my sort of job, you're either doing it or you're not doing it. I wish it wasn't true. I wish you could say, I'll do 20% of that, but you can't. It's 100% or nothing. And I think the other thing that I know now is when I'm tired, I know to stop. Whereas before, when I was tired, might have pushed it on to the very limit.
I quit smoking immediately. That was one of the first things that I did, which I thought was an absolute huge improvement for me in terms of the way I was feeling. Smoking really... Smoking depresses all your body organs. The superficial smell outside your body is one thing, but what I've discovered is, because I was such a heavy smoker, and I enjoyed it very, very much, but what I did find is that that is what weighs down the health of your body, and I also gave up drinking alcohol. And I do feel an improvement for all those, for that.
From the day it happened, I haven't had a sip of alcohol. And I wouldn't say that I wasn't a boozer, but I was quite enthusiastic about, whiskey and wine. I liked them both. But when it happened, I thought, I'm in a bit of a pickle here. And there were 3 cardiologists on the job while I was, at my lowest point. And the youngest guy, I can still remember him, he was a very impressive fellow, he's now working in America. He said to me, he said, normally I'd say that to heart patients, have a drink, have a glass of wine at night. In your case, good idea that you don't have any, good idea. So I mean that, from a social point of view, it doesn't make the socialising any easier. If you're sitting there and everybody else has had, the compulsory 2 or 3 glasses. But I'm a good driver after.
He's very popular, for driving, and he also has a wine cellar full of red wine, which is sitting there waiting for someone to drink it.
When I was first diagnosed with my illness, I still had a lot of contacts at work, and I've kept up all my friendships, and so life has really gone on quite the same, except I wasn't feeling very well.
I don't go swimming, or I won't dive into the ocean like I used to, and I'm very careful about where I go. I won't take stairs. I've got a program how I'm going to get somewhere. So it's been a huge impact because your mobility is reduced. Mobility we take for granted goes. It's gone, it's reduced. But that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy your life. I am enjoying my life. I'm enjoying my life immensely, but there's still that little thought at the back of the mind, wow, I wish I could do what I was doing. Oh, I'd love to be down at the gym now pumping those weights, but I can't do that.
I've just had to come to terms with it, and I realise that the professor at the hospital is the boss, and I just have to deal with it and accept it. And it hasn't been easy, but I do.